I don't think of myself collectively like many people do. I don't think of myself as a Canadian. I'm a human being as in everyone else. I don't believe in these borders that these politicians draw up on maps and all that sort of stuff. And that's just used basically to separate us and to basically keep us apart.
A little bit about what you do?
Certainly. My name's Jeff Berwick. I write the Dollar Vigilante newsletter. It's a newsletter basically helping people to prepare for the coming collapse of the fiat currency system, which is well into process right now, and how to survive through it and prosper from it and get through it, really, because it's going to be one of the craziest things that's ever happened in human history. We've never had the global reserve currency of the world collapse, and that's going to happen in one way or another in the next few years. In the past, people in like Zimbabwe or whatever, they could buy or they could convert their money into US dollars, but now we're going to have the US dollar collapse, and it's going to take all the other fiat currencies with it because there's nothing backing the other fiat currencies either. Most of them are heavily indebted as well. So we just help people to prepare for that and talk about those sort of topics.
Right, and that's what happens, exactly what happens in Silver Circle is the dollar is no longer the world's reserve currency. So when exactly did you leave Canada?
I left in 2004. I've always thought, I don't think of myself collectively like many people do. I don't think of myself as a Canadian. I'm a human being as in everyone else. I don't believe in these borders that these politicians draw up on maps and all that sort of stuff. And that's just used basically to separate us and to basically keep us apart. And so I've always thought of myself as a citizen of the world. So in 2004 I had the ability, after selling an internet company that I have in Canada, to travel for a while. So I sailed on my boat for a while, tried to sail the world, and I sunk my boat in El Salvador, and then I just kept going for a few years. Then I lived in Thailand for a while, and now I live in Mexico.
Which is an amazing story that, I mean, way to go on getting all that experience in, and we're happy that you made it and you had that surfboard. That's what I read, right?
That's right.
Very thankful for that surfboard. A lot of people are. So explain to me a little bit about Galt's Gulch. I've been reading a lot about it, and obviously there's a little play on a very popular fictional book there.
Yes.
So go ahead and tell me a little bit about it.
Well, with this coming collapse, it could get very, very messy and dangerous for a period of time. There's no way to know what's going to happen. We could have major wars or famines or all sorts of. The government could really crack down on people as they try to retain power. And so Doug Casey came up with this concept, and Doug Casey's basically my mentor, and he's the one who's taught me about many of the things I know about freedom and that sort of thing. And he was looking around the world. He's traveled all over the world. He's been to 150 countries, 180 countries or something, and he wanted to build a place that's quite far away from everything, to get away from the Western world for the next few years, and to really try to attract sort of freedom-minded people there, exactly the same as in Ayn Rand's book, where entrepreneurs and more freedom-minded people who don't want government involvement in their life, went and lived in one area, and that's basically what Doug Casey's doing in Argentina.
So can anyone move there then?
If you have the money, yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So about how much is some property down there?
They're selling lots. The smaller ones are all sold now. They have a total of 300 lots. They sold 230 so far, so there's 70 left. They're all larger lots. They started around 300,000 for a lot, and it'll cost you easily a few $100,000 or more to build a house. So you have to look at a $500,000 up sort of investment.
So in comparison to Galt's Gulch, is there actually businesses flourishing in this area? I mean, do you have your automotive repair, your electrician, etc., that are moving into the area?
Totally. This is transforming the whole northern province of Salta in Argentina. You have hundreds of multimillionaires and entrepreneurs and amazing scientists, all sorts of amazing people moving there. And of course, they're going to have a number of needs and wants, and many of them are entrepreneurs, so they'll start up their own businesses, and it's going to really transform that whole area for sure.
If there's going to be all these services located in this area with freedom-oriented people, how is the currency developing? Or is there, just one sort of currency developing in this Galt's Gulch area?
Well, we're like everyone. We have to wait till the system collapses. We're not going to start just trading gold amongst ourselves. We might as well continue to use these dollars while we can, because we'd actually prefer to use those dollars, because we think of them as becoming worthless every day, worth less every day, and eventually worthless. So we'd rather do that until they finally disappear, and then we can go back to some sort of probably gold-backed currency or something along those lines. We really don't know where we'll go after that, or silver-backed, or precious metals. So right now we actually use the Argentine peso pesos because we want to get rid of them as fast as we can because they're devaluing. They've actually had 5 devaluations and currency collapses in the last 40 years in Argentina. It's considered a national sport in Argentina. It's in the process of collapsing again. So, if you're going to have pesos down there, you just want to get rid of them as fast as possible because it probably won't last much longer.
Right. Do you see a trend here with Galt's Gulch? Do you see communities like this? Do you think they're going to start popping up around the world?
Absolutely. Doug Casey has talked for a number of years about people starting files. He thinks as these nation states all start to collapse, because they're all basically, all nation states now have central banks, they all have socialism, and they're all gone bankrupt at this point, and they're going to all start to collapse. And then what we might see happen is people starting to migrate and starting their own areas, their own autonomous regions, and anarchic regions, or whatever they want to do. They can start their own communist region for all we care, as long as it's all voluntary. And we're seeing that all over the world right now, and many people are starting up sort of expat communities, trying to attract like-minded people in certain regions. Because if you think about it, it's so easy to travel the world now, and so you couldn't do this a few hundred years ago. It was just too difficult to get people from all over the world to go move to one area. But now it's quite simple with things like the internet. You can work from anywhere, so these things are popping up all over. I have a small one in Mexico, in Acapulco. I have my own little libertarian enclave called Acacondos, so these things are popping up all over the place, and the New Hampshire, the Free States, and so people are migrating there. So these things are happening all over right now.
Right. So you're kind of a walking, influence and inspiration for a lot of libertarians out there who want to escape the system. People are probably just drooling at what you're telling them right now. So what's your advice? What's maybe a first step that people could know to do what you're doing? Because it seems like a big risk to take, but at the same time, the reward is huge.
Yeah, I don't see it as being risky. I think the risk is staying in a place like the U.S. for the next few years, and possibly, they just wrote off the Bill of Rights. The Constitution was dead long ago. All these things they're doing with the National Defense Authorization Act, to me, it's incredibly risky to stay in some of these Western countries, especially where they've been so obvious that they're going to be clamping down and setting up FEMA camps and all these sort of things. It looks like Nazi Germany all over again in process. So to me, the risk is staying in a Western country, and there's so much opportunity outside of these Western countries because all the other countries, they never got into this debt-based money system, which has most of the Western world is part of, which are all collapsing now. So they don't have any big debt, they don't have these major problems, they don't have these misallocations of wealth. There's all kinds of opportunities, and many of these governments aren't that involved in the economy, whereas in the US you need so many licenses and regulations and rules to start up a company. In many places, like for example Mexico, you just start something up, you just start a business, and that's it. So for entrepreneurial-minded people, you just have to basically figure out a way to get somewhere, and then figure out how to add value to something there. And it can be very simple. Of course, it sounds scary, right? Because the future, if there's no guarantee, it sounds scary. But I think it's not as scary as it used to be with the internet, and the world is a small place nowadays. If things get bad, maybe your father can send money and fly you back to wherever you came from or something.
So in Argentina and Mexico and places like this, there's people aren't going to be facing these same sort of trials as they are in, let's say, the United States and Canada.
Well, every country's different. Argentina's got a lot of problems too. They're a very socialist government, so I wouldn't really want to start a business in Argentina. But there's surrounding areas that are awesome. Paraguay has no income tax. There's hardly anything there. There's hardly any government involvement in the economy. It's a great place. That's very close to Argentina. There's all sorts of places like that, Chile and numerous countries. So it really depends on what you want to do and your skills and what you want to start up. But there's so much opportunity in the world today, and all the time there's things happening. For example, Honduras is thinking of starting up basically a law-free, tax-free zone, a libertarian anarchic community. And so I'm looking at doing something there, and there's all sorts of things going on right now. So definitely it's exciting times for people who are freedom-minded.
Great. And the people in these countries, are they welcoming to the idea of a libertarian anarchic society?
Again, every country is different. Mexico has so many people who are actually anarchists at heart. They really just think of the government as a nuisance, and they don't even want it or care about it, and they just give the policemen 5 pesos sometimes and just tell them to get lost, which actually I prefer to the US way, where you get thrown up against a wall and tased and pepper sprayed and like Rand Paul today, who got detained by the TSA. And once you get into that system, that's scary to me. So yeah, so there's a lot of freedom-minded people around the world, but at the same time, just like anywhere, there's a lot of socialist-minded, a lot of collectivist-minded, statist sort of people. But every area has some, at least, that are freedom-minded for sure.
Right. Well, I subscribe to your daily blog, and I love reading everything that happens every day that you have to say. How do people find you online, and what's the best way?
It's just dollarvigilante.com, and there's a free blog, like you just said, right on the front page. Just put in your email address, and we'll send you our Vigilante class.
Great. Well, we're really looking forward to working with you and cross-promoting both of our projects. And thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you very much.